If you're hearing my voice right now, I need you to do something for me. Take a deep breath, settle yourself, and don't look away for even 1 second. What I'm about to share isn't easy to hear. It isn't easy to say. But somewhere out there, right now, another mother might be ignoring the exact same signs I once overlooked. Another child might be living in the same kind of silent terror my daughter was drowning in. And if you can help me break that silence, if you can help me reach even one parent who needs to hear this, then please just tap the like button so this story travels farther. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you're a parent, tell me the age of your child. I read every single comment because every parent who listens to this gives me strength I never thought I'd have again. My name is Claire Donovan. I'm 39 years old, and for 16 years of my life, I thought I was married to a good man. A solid man. Someone stable, dependable, predictable, maybe even boring if I'm being brutally honest. But boring felt safe. Boring felt like the kind of life a child could grow up in without fear. That's all I ever wanted: safety. A home that was nothing like the one I grew up in. No screaming. No slammed doors. No walking on eggshells. So when I met Daniel, the quiet, soft-spoken electrician who lived down the street from my college dorm, it felt like God had handed me exactly what I'd asked for. We built a life together slowly, carefully. We got married after 5 years of dating. We bought a small, cozy house in the suburbs. And 3 years later, our daughter Lily was born. I remember the first night I held her. She was so tiny, so warm, so fragile, and when Daniel placed his hand on her back, he whispered, "I will always protect you." I believed him. Of course I believed him. Why wouldn't I? For the first 13 years of her life, Lily was sunshine in human form. Laughing, artistic, curious. She loved to draw, loved to bake cookies with me on Sunday afternoons, loved going to the hardware store with her dad to help him pick out paint or screws or whatever little project he had going. He loved us. He trusted us. He trusted him. And for a long time he seemed to adore her just as much. But then something changed. It didn't happen all at once. It wasn't like a switch flipped overnight. It was small at first. Tiny cracks that I brushed off as normal teenage moodiness. I told myself every child goes through phases. Every child pulls away. Every child slams a door now and then or snaps at their parents or stays quiet when they used to chatter endlessly. It's normal, right? That's what I told myself. That's what I clung to. The first real sign happened last November. I had gotten home late from work. I'm a dental hygienist and the office had been slammed that day, and Lily was sitting at the kitchen table doing homework. When I bent down to kiss the top of her head, she flinched. Not a small flinch. A full body, sudden jolt, like she was bracing for something to strike her. "Baby," I'd asked. "Are you okay?" "Fine," she mumbled, eyes locked on her math worksheet. I looked at her arms. Long sleeves. At the dinner table. In a heated house. She tugged the cuffs down a little farther when she caught me staring. "Are you cold?" I asked. No. I didn't push. God, I should have pushed. That moment replayed in my head 1,000 times later, over and over, like some sick movie I couldn't shut off. But in that moment, all I did was make dinner and tell myself she was adjusting to 7th grade, dealing with the stress of new teachers, new friends, new everything. Kids hide things, I reminded myself. I hid things from my parents all the time. The next sign came 2 weeks later. I was doing laundry, Lily's laundry, and when I lifted one of her folded shirts, her sports bra slipped out with it. There was a handprint on the side of it. Bruised. Faded yellow. But unmistakably a handprint. A grown hand. Fingers curved, pressure clear. I sat on the floor of the laundry room for almost 10 minutes just staring at it, telling myself it was from gym class, maybe a rough game of dodgeball, maybe she fell, maybe she grabbed herself by accident and bruised her own ribs. I came up with excuse after excuse because the truth was too horrifying to consider. When I asked her about it that night, she panicked. Not irritated, panicked. Her eyes went huge. Her breathing changed. She said, "I fell," and her hands trembled while she said it. Some part of me knew she was lying. Some deeper part of me knew why. And yet I didn't press her. I didn't want to believe my own fear. But the biggest sign, the one I couldn't ignore, came on a night in December. Daniel had always been a light sleeper, the type who woke up at the slightest noise. But over the past year he'd started staying up later and later. I'd wake up around midnight and find him gone from our bed. He'd always say he went to get water or check something in the garage. I believed him because believing him was easier than questioning him. But that night I woke to a sound, quiet, muffled like a soft thump somewhere down the hall. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. Daniel wasn't beside me. Something in me told me to move. To get up. To walk down the hall even though every rational part of my brain screamed not to. When I stepped into the hallway, I saw Lily's door slightly open. Just an inch. But enough for me to see movement inside. Someone was in her room. I didn't breathe. Didn't blink. I just walked, slowly, silently, until I reached the door. I pushed it open, barely an inch more, just enough to peek inside. Daniel was standing over her. Lily was sitting upright in her bed, her arms wrapped around her knees, trembling. Daniel was towering above her, his voice low, sharp, controlled, but cold. So cold. I couldn't make out the words, but I could hear the tone. It was a tone I had never heard him use before. Not with me. Not with anyone. I stepped inside the room. "What's going on?" I whispered. Daniel whipped around, startled. Lily's eyes met mine for a split second, and what I saw in them froze me to the bone. Fear. Real raw fear. The kind of fear a child should never feel toward their own father. "Claire," Daniel said, straightening himself, smoothing out his expression. "She woke up from a nightmare. I came to check on her." Lily shook her head. Very slightly. Almost imperceptibly. But I saw it. "Nightmare?" I repeated, my gaze flicking between them. "Honey, did you have a nightmare?" Lily didn't answer. Her eyes darted to Daniel. Just a fraction of a second. But that tiny movement told me everything. "Daniel," I said slowly, "why were you standing over her?" "I wasn't standing over her. I was talking to her." Lily's body tensed. Hard. I felt something sharp and painful form in my chest. A truth I didn't want to know. A truth I fought against because the alternative would destroy the entire foundation of my life. "Can I talk to Lily alone?" I asked. Daniel's jaw tightened. "It's late. Let her sleep." "Out," I said. My voice shook. "Please." He left. Reluctantly. Fully. And Lily exhaled in a shaky breath the moment he was gone. When the door clicked shut, I went to her, sat on the edge of the bed and reached for her hand. She flinched again. "Baby," I whispered, "tell me what's wrong." She shook her head. Looked away. Reached up and wiped tears before they could fall. "I'm fine," she whispered. "Please don't make it worse." Worse. That word shattered me. What does that mean? I breathed. She didn't answer. She just curled into herself like she was bracing for something I couldn't see. Something I wasn't stopping. Something inside my own house. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. 2 days later, another bruise. This time on her shoulder. Oval-shaped. Finger-shaped. No way to mistake it. Lily claimed she bumped into a locker at school. Her voice trembled when she said it. Daniel stood behind her, arms crossed, watching me too closely. That was the moment I broke. Something inside me snapped. I needed the truth. I needed proof. Not because I doubted my daughter, but because I needed undeniable evidence before involving anyone else. Police, child services, lawyers. Anyone. Because if I was right, if the man I loved, the father of my child, had been hurting her, then I needed to be ready for war. That night, after they both fell asleep, I sat in the living room and ordered 2 hidden cameras online. I hid one in Lily's bookshelf the next afternoon, tucked behind her collection of fantasy novels, angled perfectly toward her bed. I told myself I was doing it for her protection. For her safety. For proof. But deep down I knew the truth. I was terrified of what I might see. Terrified that the girl I loved more than life itself, the girl who used to run into my arms every morning, had been living in fear under my nose. Terrified that the man sleeping in my bed was not the man I thought he was. Terrified that I had been blind. I installed the camera anyway. And that night everything changed. I need you to stick with me. Don't go anywhere. Part 2 will show you the moment everything I believed about my life. The moment my entire family, shattered beyond repair. If you're still here, thank you. Really. Because what happened next? This is the part no mother ever imagines herself living. This is the part one used to judge other people for. The part where you swear you'd never miss something so obvious, never overlook something so dangerous, never allow something so horrific to happen under your roof. And then you wake up one day and realize you've become the woman you always pitied. The one who didn't see what was happening right in front of her. The night I installed the camera, I barely breathed. I tucked it behind one of Lily's thick fantasy novels, fixed the angle, made sure it caught the bed, the doorway, the whole room. It was disguised as a tiny black USB block, and I tested it on my phone over and over until I could see everything clearly. If Daniel walked into her room, I'd know. If Lily cried in her sleep, I'd know. If anything, felt off, I'd have evidence. That night I couldn't sit still. I didn't even pretend to sleep. I waited in the living room, lights off, curled up in the corner of the couch like a trapped animal. My phone was in my hand. The camera feed open. My heart pounding so loud it felt like the walls could hear it. 11:08 p.m. Nothing. 11:23 p.m. Still nothing. 11:40 p.m. I saw Lily roll over, her small silhouette shifting under the blankets. She looked restless, anxious. Even alone, she seemed afraid. Then at 12:06 a.m. the hallway light flicked on. My entire body went rigid. The camera didn't show the hallway, just the inside of Lily's room, but the sliver of light under her door brightened. Lily stirred. Her head snapped up. She looked toward the door like she already knew what was coming. The knob turned. Slowly. Quietly. Then the door opened just enough to let in Daniel's shadow. He stepped inside. Calm. Deliberate. Like walking into your child's bedroom just after midnight was the most natural thing in the world. I froze. My hand hovered over my phone. I wanted to run upstairs, burst into her room, scream at him to get away from her. But I needed to know what he was doing, what exactly was going on behind closed doors. If I barged in too early, he would deny everything. He'd twist it. He would find a way to make Lily say it was nothing. I'd seen that look in her eyes. That fear. She'd crumble under him. So I watched. He walked to her bed. Sat down at the edge of it. Lily sat up immediately, shrinking back like she was bracing for impact. I couldn't hear everything, but I heard enough. I told you, Daniel whispered sharply. You don't talk back to me. Lily shook her head, her voice trembling. I didn't talk back. I wasn't trying to. You rolled your eyes at me. I didn't, she whispered. I swear I didn't. He leaned closer. Too close. Not touching. Not yet. But his presence alone made her recoil. You think I don't notice things? He said quietly, voice low, like a threat wrapped in softness. I see everything you do. Lily pulled her knees to her chest. Please, she whispered. I won't do it again. My blood ran cold. Daniel stood up. He reached toward her. My heart stopped. He grabbed her arm. Hard enough to make her gasp. Hard enough that I saw her body jerk in pain. Show me your hands, he commanded. She lifted them, shaking uncontrollably. For what? What was he checking for? He lifted her chin with 2 fingers. Not tenderly. Rough. Forceful. You don't lie to me, he said. I'm not, she sobbed. Dad, I'm not lying. He squeezed her arm again. And then, I heard her cry out. Soft. Not a scream, she didn't dare scream, but a broken sound that punched straight through my chest. And that was it. Something in me snapped. I ran. I didn't think, didn't hesitate. I sprinted up the stairs so fast I nearly fell. I slammed Lily's door open so hard it hit the wall. Daniel spun around. Lily was curled against the headboard, clutching her arm, tears streaming down her face. What the hell is happening? I screamed. Daniel stepped back, his expression shifting instantly, like a flick of a switch, from rage to complete blankness to confusion. Claire? What are you doing awake? What am I doing awake? I shot back. What are you doing in our daughter's room in the middle of the night? Why are you grabbing her like that? Why is she crying? It's not what it looks like, he snapped. She was being disrespectful earlier. I'm disciplining her. Disciplining. I felt my voice crack, fury exploding inside me. You call bruising her disciplining? He straightened. His jaw clenched. Stop overreacting. I didn't bruise her. She's exaggerating. Mom, Lily whispered, voice breaking, please don't. But I stepped in front of her, shielding her with my body. Lily, look at me, I said softly. Did he hurt you tonight? Her breath hitched. She didn't speak. She didn't nod. Didn't shake her head. She just stared at me with those terrified eyes, silently pleading. That silence was my answer. Daniel took a step forward. Claire, stop. You're making this bigger than it is. You touched her, I said. I saw you. He froze. For a split second something flashed in his eyes. Panic. But it disappeared so fast I almost wondered if I imagined it. Saw what? He asked slowly. Carefully. What exactly did you see? My heart pounded. He didn't know about the camera. Not yet. I saw enough, I said. Get out. Now. He laughed. Actually laughed. Get out of my own daughter's room? It's not your room, I said. It's hers. And I'm telling you to get out. He stared at me. Then he stared at Lily. Something cold and vicious flickered in his eyes before he turned and walked out without another word. I shut the door behind him and locked it. Then I collapsed on the floor, shaking so violently I could barely breathe. Mom, Lily whispered. I forced myself up and went to her. I took her hands gently. Baby, I whispered, please tell me what's happening. She shook her head, tears spilling over. You don't understand. It's not him. It's me. I make him mad. No, I said firmly. No, you don't. None of this is your fault. He curled into me. I held her for a long time, feeling every tremor in her small body, every shuddering breath. When she fell asleep against my side, exhausted from crying, I sat there in the dark. Awake, alert, terrified, furious. And while I held her, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A notification. Damn it. The recording had saved. Proof. Cold, undeniable proof. I stepped out into the hallway quietly, checking the door to make sure it was locked. Daniel was nowhere in sight. The house felt too still, too quiet, like it was holding its breath. I played the recording. I watched every second. His voice. Her fear. His grip on her arm. Her body reacting. His anger. Her apology. Her terror. I watched until I was shaking so hard I had to sit down in the hallway. This was real. This was happening. This was my life. And that was the moment I knew. I had to get her out. I had to protect her. I had to become someone I never thought I'd need to be. Because the man I married was hurting my child. And now that I knew, I would burn the world down before I let him do it again. What happened the next morning? The confrontation, the escalation, the plan I had to build in absolute silence. The moment Lily told me something that nearly stopped my heart. If you're still with me, thank you. I say that every time because I mean it every time. Telling this isn't easy. Hearing it isn't easy. But if you're still here, if you've followed me this far, you already understand the weight of what I'm carrying, and what my daughter was carrying alone for months. Maybe longer. That morning, the morning after the video, it was like waking up in someone else's house. Everything looked the same but nothing felt the same. The walls, the furniture, even the coffee pot on the counter. It all felt tainted. Corrupted. Like the air itself was poisoned by what I now knew. I didn't sleep. Not for a single minute. I lay beside Lily until the sun peeked through her curtains, watching her tiny chest rise and fall, memorizing every freckle on her face. Her arm, bruised and swollen from where Daniel had grabbed her, rested against my side. I wanted to cry every time I looked at it, but I couldn't. I couldn't let her see fear on my face. I stroked her hair until she woke up, her eyes puffy and half shut. When she realized she was still in my arms, she clung to me like a lifeline. Mom, she whispered, voice raw. Is he awake? Not yet, I said softly. And you won't be alone with him again. Ever. Her body relaxed a fraction. Not enough. Not anywhere close to enough. But it was something. When she finally got dressed for school, she moved slowly, carefully, like her whole body hurt. She tried to hide it from me, she always tried to hide it, but I saw everything now. The wince when she leaned over to tie her shoes. The way she held her backpack strap with caution, avoiding pressure on her bruised arm. Daniel came into the kitchen then. And God, seeing him that morning was like looking directly at a monster wearing my husband's skin. Morning, he said casually, like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't terrorized our child at midnight. Like he hadn't left fingerprints on her arm. I didn't answer. I couldn't. If I opened my mouth, I might scream. He poured himself coffee. Lily froze at the table, staring at her cereal like if she moved, she'd draw his attention. Why's everyone so quiet? Daniel asked, smiling faintly. Tired. I stared at him. Directly. Not blinking. Don't talk to her. The smile faded. Fully. Excuse me. You heard me. Lily flinched at the tension in my voice. Daniel glanced between us, something sharp slipping into his eyes. Claire, he said, voice low, don't start. Don't start. The word scraped my throat. You hurt her. He stiffened. Just barely. We talked about this last night. No, I cut him off. Look. I saw something else. He froze for half a second too long. His face gave him away. He knew. He knew what I meant. Or at least he knew enough to be scared I had proof. But he recovered fast. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Lily's spoon clattered against the bowl from her shaking hands. That tiny sound made Daniel's jaw twitch. I'm taking her to school today, I said. I always take her on Thursdays. Not today. He stared at me again, his expression shifting through a rapid series of calculations. He was choosing how to play this. How to maintain control. How to twist this. Fine, he said finally. Do whatever you want. But the way he said it, the calmness of it, terrified me more than his anger ever could. Lily and I left the house without another word. And the moment we got inside the car, she burst into tears. Silent, trembling tears she tried to hide behind her hands. Mom, she sobbed, please don't leave me alone with him again. Please don't. Honey, I whispered, holding her face gently, I'm not. I promise. I'm getting you help. I'm getting us out. I'm going to protect you no matter what. She shook her head. He'll be mad. He can be as mad as he wants, I said. He will never touch you again. She looked at me, eyes wide with something I hadn't seen on her face in months. Hope. Tiny, fragile, flickering. But then she said something that nearly knocked the air out of my lungs. Something that made my hands go cold on the steering wheel. Mom, he says it's my fault. My heart shattered. Literally split in half. Honey, look at me. He didn't. She stared out the window, tears dripping onto her jeans. You listen to me right now, I said softly, firmly. Nothing he does is your fault. Nothing you do justifies him hurting you. Adults don't treat children like that. Good fathers don't treat daughters like that. He is lying to you to control you. She wiped her eyes. Slowly nodded. But the doubt was still there, embedded deep, planted by months of fear. I dropped her off at school, walked her inside, hugged her tightly, told her I'd be back early. She looked so small walking into that building. So breakable. When I got back into the car, my hands were shaking too hard to even put the key in the ignition. I sat there for a full minute, breathing in and out, telling myself I had to be strong. I had to act. Not tomorrow. Not next week. No. I opened my phone. Pulled up the video again. Forced myself to watch it one more time to make sure I wasn't overreacting. I wasn't. Not even close. Called my sister. No answer. Called my mom. Voicemail. I sat there with adrenaline buzzing under my skin, asking myself who to call next. Friend? The police? A lawyer? But I knew I wasn't ready to involve the police without a plan. Once that door opened, it wouldn't close. Daniel was the type of man who would fight tooth and nail, deny everything, twist everything, paint me as hysterical. He was smart. He was someone who always needed to be in control. I needed more than a video. I needed a safety net. I needed a place to go. I needed help. And then my phone buzzed. A text. From Daniel. We need to talk. No. My stomach dropped. I didn't answer. I couldn't answer. Every instinct screamed that he knew. He must have known something. Maybe he checked the hallway. Maybe he saw me watching them. Maybe he sensed a shift in me. Another text. Come home. Home. The word felt like a threat. I didn't reply. Instead, I drove to the only place I could think of. My coworker Lisa's house. She'd always been kind, always made me feel safe. She brought me inside, sat me on her couch, and when she saw my face, she didn't ask stupid questions. What's wrong? She whispered. I handed her my phone. I let her watch the video. Lisa covered her mouth with her hand. Oh my God. Claire, you need to call someone. You need to get Lily away from him. I know, I choked out. But I need to be smart. I need to plan. I need to make sure he can't take her. I need. I broke. I completely broke. Lisa held me while I sobbed into her shoulder. I don't know how long I cried, but when I was done, my entire body felt hollow. I went home an hour later. Only because I needed Lily's birth certificate, medical records, and enough of her clothes to get us through the next week. I didn't want to leave her things behind, but I couldn't carry everything. Not yet. When I walked through the front door, Daniel was sitting in the living room. Waiting. His expression was unreadable. Too calm. Too composed. You didn't answer my texts, he said quietly. I had things to do. He stood up slowly. We should talk. No, I said. We shouldn't. What's that supposed to mean? It means we're done. His jaw tightened, anger flashing beneath the surface. You're being dramatic. Nothing happened last night except a disrespectful child exaggerating because she didn't get her way. I laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. You grabbed her. You hurt her. You terrified her. I disciplined her. Because you're too soft to do it yourself. No, I shook my head. No, Daniel. You didn't discipline her. You abused her. The word hung in the air. Heavy. Explosive. Deadly. He stepped toward me. Claire, think very carefully about what you're saying. I have, I whispered. More carefully than you know. Something dark flickered behind his eyes. Are you planning to take her? My blood ran cold. Because, he continued, if you try anything stupid they won't believe you. They never believe the hysterical wife. And I'll win. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Not without revealing what I had. Claire, he said, taking another step, put whatever ideas you have out of your head. We are a family. And you are not going to ruin that. But while he was talking, while he was threatening, while he was trying to intimidate me, something inside me shifted permanently. Something hardened. I wasn't afraid of him anymore. Not for myself. Not when I had someone far more precious to protect. You already ruined it, I whispered. That was the first time I saw something like fear flicker across his face. I turned. Walked upstairs. Packed Lily's things. Took her documents. And every minute I was terrified he would follow me, but he didn't. He stood downstairs, staring at the wall, breathing hard like a man unraveling in slow motion. When I walked out the door I didn't look back. But I didn't know then what Lily was hiding. I didn't know that there were parts of the story she hadn't told me yet. Parts that would change everything. Parts that would send this spiraling into something darker, something more dangerous, something I never expected. What she told me that night broke me in a way I didn't think was possible. If you're still here, you're stronger than I was when I lived this. Stronger than I felt. Stronger than I believed I could ever be. Because what came next wasn't a moment. It wasn't a scene. It wasn't a single blow or confession. It was an unraveling, slow, suffocating, terrifying. And once it started, I couldn't stop it, couldn't pause it, couldn't rewind my life to the part where I still believed I'd built a safe home for my daughter. I left the house with Lily's birth certificate, her medical papers, and a duffel bag of clothes. I didn't know where I'd sleep that night. I didn't know what lawyer I'd call. I didn't know what Daniel would do when he realized we weren't coming back. I didn't know if he'd call the police first, or my parents, or show up at Lily's school. All I knew was that I couldn't stay. I couldn't give him another night, another hour, another minute alone with her. I picked Lily up early from school. She saw me waiting in the office and froze. Not in fear, at least not the usual kind. She froze like she knew something had shifted. Like she could sense the storm behind my eyes. Mom, she whispered, walking toward me slowly, backpack hanging off her shoulder. Why are you here? I'm taking you early, I said. We're leaving. Just us. Her face went pale. Leaving? Leaving where? Away from the house, I said quietly. I knelt down so we were eye level. Away from him. Her breath caught in her throat. For how long? For as long as we need, I said. Maybe forever. She blinked at me for a moment like she was trying to understand words too big for her world. Then she threw her arms around my neck and held on like she thought I'd vanish. I took her to a motel 30 minutes from home. Nothing fancy. Just a small room with a double bed and a lamp that flickered when you turned it on. The kind of room people hide in when they're running from something too heavy to carry. The moment we walked inside, Lily sat on the bed and wrapped her arms around her knees. Are we safe? She whispered. Yes, I said. You're safe. I promise. She nodded, but she didn't look convinced. She didn't know yet what I knew. Daniel wasn't going to let us go easily. Not because he loved us. Not because he cared. But because he needed control. Needed power. Needed his house to run the way he wanted it to. And losing us meant losing the thing he used to assert himself. I ordered us pizza, but neither of us ate much. I showered Lily, washed her hair gently, careful around her bruises. Bruises I'd missed. Bruises he'd explained away. Bruises she'd hidden. She put on the soft pajama pants I'd packed and curled under the motel blanket while I sat at the small table by the window, thinking through every possible next step. Police. Protective order. Social worker. It felt like staring at a maze with 100 wrong turns and no obvious exit. Mom, her voice came from the bed, small and shaky. Yes, baby. Can you sit with me? Her voice. Gut. There was something in it. Fear, exhaustion, but also something else. Something heavier. Something like a secret crawling up her throat. I sat beside her. She leaned into me, head on my shoulder. Mom, she whispered, can I tell you something? Of course. He swallowed. Hard. Then again. Her hands were cold when she reached for mine. He's been doing it for a long time. My heart slowed. How long? I asked gently. Since before summer. That was 6 months. 6 months of nights. 6 months of bruises. 6 months of my daughter living in fear while I believed everything was fine. He gets mad, she whispered, staring at the sheets. Sometimes for little things. Sometimes for nothing. Sometimes because I look at him wrong. Or because I drop something. Or because I'm loud. Or quiet. Or because. I stopped her gently. You don't need a reason. None of that justifies what he did. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. He told me not to tell you because you wouldn't believe me. He said you'd think I was dramatic. That you'd think he was just teaching me to behave. Tears rushed into my eyes. Baby, no. I would never. But I didn't want you to get mad at him, she said. I didn't want you to fight. I didn't want him to get mad at you because of me. I didn't want. Her voice broke. Her shoulders shook. I pulled her into me, held her tighter than I ever had. You didn't do anything wrong, I whispered into her hair. You never did anything wrong. She sobbed into my shirt and I held her until her breathing slowed. But I could feel it, there was more. Something she hadn't said yet. She pulled back a little, her fingers twisting the hem of her shirt. Mom. Yes. Sometimes he says things. My stomach tightened. What kind of things? She looked at the wall. Not at me. Things about how I should listen. How I should be scared of him. How he can make me. She didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. He said if I told anyone, she continued quietly, that he would say I was lying. That he would say I was trying to get attention. And that you would pick him. Because you always pick him. That last part cracked something in me that had been holding together by threads. I would never pick him over you, I said, voice breaking. Never. I'm so sorry you thought that. She nodded slowly, like she wanted to believe me but wasn't sure if she could trust anyone anymore. It was around 9 when I stepped into the bathroom to call a domestic violence hotline. Not because I needed shelter, they offered more than that. They offered information. Guidance. Steps. A plan. The woman on the phone spoke calmly, gently, and every time I tried to apologize for crying she said, "You've done the hardest part. You believed your child." Then she said something that made my heart pound. You need a protective order. Tonight if possible. And you need to report what he did. I have video, I whispered. I have proof. That's good, she said. But be careful. Once you take the next step he may escalate. Make sure you don't go home. Make sure your daughter stays with you at all times. I promised I would. When I hung up, Lily was sitting up in bed, hugging her stuffed bear, the one she brought everywhere but hadn't taken out in months. A small comfort she'd hidden away while living in fear. Mom, she asked. Are we going home tomorrow? No, I said. We're not. She nodded. Fully. Relief washed over her features, softening them for the first time in weeks. But then there was a knock on the door. Not the loud knock of housekeeping. Not the hurried knock of someone passing by. A slow, deliberate, heavy knock. The kind that sends ice down your spine. Lily's eyes widened. She grabbed my arm. Mom, she whispered, don't open it. I looked through the peephole. My heart nearly stopped. Daniel. He'd found us. He stood there in the dim motel hallway, face unreadable, gaze locked on the door. He knew we were there. He probably saw my car outside. Or maybe he tracked my phone. Or maybe he just guessed. He knocked again. Harder. Claire, he said through the door. His voice calm. Too calm. Open the door. I didn't move. Couldn't move. I'm not here to fight, he continued. I just want to talk. Lily clung to my sleeve so tightly her nails dug into me. He'll hurt us, she whispered. Please don't let him in. I didn't. Claire, Daniel said again, knocking harder. We can fix this. We need to talk about what you think you saw. Think I saw. He didn't know about the camera. I'm calling the police, I said through the door. Silence. Then a long exhale. You don't want to do that. Yes, I said. I do. He knocked one final time, loud enough to rattle the doorframe. Then he walked away. Lily and I waited in silence until we heard his car pull out of the parking lot. I called 911. Told them everything. Told them he'd shown up, that we were in danger, that I had video proof. They sent officers to the motel to document the situation. One of them about my age, one older. They both looked at Lily's bruises with a mix of sadness and something else. Something like anger on her behalf. We'll file a report, the older officer said. And we recommend you get a protective order as soon as the courthouse opens. Will he be arrested? I asked. Not tonight, he said. But soon. Lily didn't speak while they were there. She sat beside me, small and silent. When the officers left, she crawled into my lap like she used to do when she was 5. Mom, she whispered, he's going to be really mad. I don't care, I said. He can be as mad as he wants. He's never touching you again. But she buried her face in my shirt and whispered in a trembling voice. There's something else I didn't tell you. My breath caught. Something else. Something more. Something deeper than bruises and threats. I held her tightly. You can tell me anything. She shook her head. Not yet. I'm scared. I didn't push. But later that night, when she finally found the courage, she told me the part that shattered everything I thought I knew. And that part, that truth, that secret, that's what sealed his fate. If you're still here, thank you. I keep saying it and I'll keep saying it because telling this part feels like peeling away my own skin. Like dragging out secrets I buried just to survive. But you're still listening, still following, still breathing through this with me, and that means more than you know. Because what Lily told me that night, it changed everything. Changed how I saw Daniel. How I saw myself. How I understood the last year of our lives. After the police left the motel, the room felt heavier. Quiet but not peaceful. Like the silence before a storm breaks open. Lily sat on the bed, legs tucked to her chest, her stuffed bear pressed against her chin. I turned off the lamp, leaving only the yellow glow from the hallway lights seeping through the curtains. I thought maybe, just maybe, she would fall asleep. She'd been awake since midnight the night before, terrified, trembling, exhausted. But she didn't sleep. She stared at the wall. So, completely still. Lily, I whispered, sitting beside her, you don't have to tell me anything you're not ready to say. She ran her thumb over the bear's worn ear. I want to, she whispered. I just don't know how. I waited. Quiet. Patient. I didn't want to push her. I didn't want to break her open faster than she could handle. Finally she spoke. You remember the day Dad picked me up from after-school art club? I frowned. Which day? He picked you up a lot. The day I came home really quiet. The day you asked me why I wasn't talking. Yes. I remembered. She came home pale, silent, eyes dull. She didn't eat dinner. Didn't want dessert. Didn't want to talk about her project. I chalked it up to a bad day at school. I remember, I said. He swallowed. He was mad that day. Why? Her voice dropped. Because I didn't answer my phone fast enough. Gut. My stomach twisted. He said I made him look stupid. That the teacher asked where he was and I couldn't tell her because I didn't know. And he said if I ever embarrassed him again he would. Her voice dissolved. She pressed her face into her bear and breathed slowly to keep from crying. He hit my back, she whispered. In the car. When the cars next to us couldn't see. My throat tightened. He reached over the seat, she continued, and he hit me until I said sorry. I said sorry even though I didn't know what I did wrong. My hands curled into fists. My vision blurred. And that wasn't the first time, she added quietly. He gets mad when things don't go the way he wants. When he's tired. Or stressed. Or when he thinks I'm lying. Or when I don't look at him the way he likes. I closed my eyes. Breathed in. Breathed out. Lily, I whispered, why didn't you tell me? She hesitated. Then she whispered the answer I will never forget, not for as long as I live. Because he said I would ruin our family. And I didn't want to be the reason you cried like Grandma used to cry. The world stopped. Everything in me went still. My mother cried through my entire childhood. My father never hit me, but he hit her. I thought I'd hidden that from Lily. I thought I'd protected her from those memories. I thought she had no idea. But she did. She remembered everything. And because she remembered my mother crying, she believed she had to choose between her safety and mine. My heart shattered. I pulled her into my lap and held her while she cried into my chest, her small body shaking with the force of it. You will never ruin our family, I whispered into her hair. He did that. Not you. Never you. She cried harder. We stayed like that for a long time, maybe an hour, maybe two. Long enough that her tears dried on my shirt. Long enough that she finally leaned back against the pillow, exhausted, her eyes half closed. But just when I thought she'd fall asleep, she whispered, there's more. It felt like ice water poured down my spine. Baby, I said gently, you can tell me. I'm here. She shook her head. Not now. I'm scared. My chest cracked open. Are you scared of me? No, she said quickly, grabbing my hand. I'm scared he'll find us. I brushed her hair off her forehead. He won't. But at that exact moment my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text. From Daniel. You made a big mistake. I locked the screen before Lily could see. I didn't respond. I turned the phone face down and stayed with her until she finally drifted off into a fragile, shaky sleep. I didn't sleep at all. I spent the entire night planning. Searching shelters. Searching lawyers. Searching emergency custody laws. Reading every thread, every article, every piece of advice from women who escaped men like him. Some stories sounded like mine. Some were even worse. But all of them agreed on one thing. I couldn't wait. I couldn't give him time. Men like Daniel didn't calm down. They escalated. When the sun came up, I drove Lily to the courthouse. My hands were trembling so badly I dropped the pen twice when filling out the protective order petition. The clerk guided me through every line, asked questions, looked at the bruises on Lily's arms, wrote down what she saw. When the judge reviewed the video clip I provided, he looked at me with something like pure sorrow. You did the right thing coming here, he said. He granted an emergency protective order on the spot. Daniel would be served within hours. But the moment we got back to the motel room, Lily looked at me with fear I hadn't seen before. Not even the night I walked in on him hurting her. Not even the night he found us. Mom, she whispered, voice trembling. He's going to be so angry. I don't care, I said, hugging her. You don't have to see him again. But she shook her head, her voice breaking. That's not why I'm scared. I cupped her face gently. Then why? She hesitated. Then pulled her sleeve up. There was a bruise on her wrist. Faint but real. Not one I'd seen before. This one looked older. From earlier in the week. Maybe earlier in the month. Maybe longer. He grabbed me because I told him I wanted to go to my friend Emma's house, she whispered. He said no. Asked why. He said I don't get to question him. I swallowed hard. Hey, that's not your fault. She looked up at me with wide, terrified eyes. That's not the only time, she whispered. He's been hurting me for a long time, Mom. Not just when you saw. Not just at night. Sometimes when you're at work. Or when we're alone in the car. Or when we're at home and you're cooking. He gets mad fast. He hits first. He explains later. Explains later. The phrase made my stomach twist. How often, Lily? I whispered. How many times? She wiped her eyes. A lot. A lot when? Since last year. Last year. Last year. That meant this wasn't 6 months. This was 12. This was 12 months of bruises and fear and silence and manipulation. 12 months of my daughter navigating a war zone I didn't even realize existed. Tears slid down my cheeks, but I tried not to let her see them. Baby, I whispered, why didn't you tell me sooner? She stared at her hands. Because he told me if I ever told you he would take me away. My heart cracked open. Take you away? I asked. What do you mean? She looked at me then. Really looked at me. And what I saw in her eyes nearly stopped my heart. He said he'd make sure the court believed him instead of you. That they'd think you were unstable. That he could say you yelled or hit or drank too much even if it wasn't true. He said dads win sometimes. That moms lose. My voice came out barely audible. He said that. She nodded. He said he'd tell them you were unfit. And that if I didn't listen to him he'd make sure I lived with him and not you. Forever. A chill ran through me. That's why I didn't tell you, she whispered. Because I couldn't live with him alone. This was the moment I truly broke. Not when I saw the video. Not when he grabbed her. Not when he came to the motel. It was this. The threat of losing me. The manipulation. The way he used the courts as a weapon. The way he made her believe silence kept her safe. Baby, I whispered, holding her, he will never take you away. Never. I will fight for you with everything I have. I will burn every bridge, break every rule, break myself if I have to, but he will never get near you again. She buried her face in my chest and sobbed. I held her, kissing her hair, whispering again and again that she was safe. But deep down in the place where the truth sits heavy and cold, I knew the storm wasn't over. Because when a man like Daniel loses control, he doesn't walk away quietly. And he didn't. If you're still here, thank you. Truly. Because this is the part one still have trouble saying out loud. The part where everything I'd been trying to control, every step, every plan, every precaution, collapsed all at once. The part where I learned that sometimes, even when you do everything right, even when you fight, even when you run, the danger finds you anyway. The morning after the judge granted the emergency protective order, I tried to breathe, tried to believe the worst was behind us. I wanted to think the paper was enough. That a signature and a stamp could create some invisible shield around Lily and me. But I knew better. Men like Daniel don't respect paper. They don't respect walls. They don't respect boundaries. They respect power, and losing it drives them mad. I had barely finished packing Lily's duffel bag when my phone buzzed again. Another text. I didn't want to look. But I did. You think you won? You didn't. Just reading it made my hands shake. I turned the phone off immediately. I didn't want Lily to see. Didn't want her to hear the vibration. Didn't want her to know he was already unraveling. I took her to breakfast in the motel lobby. A few stale muffins, watery orange juice, and cereal that tasted like cardboard. She didn't eat much. She kept looking around the room, checking the door, staring out the window like she expected him to burst through the glass. Baby, I said softly, he can't come near us anymore. She nodded, but she didn't look convinced. Her shoulders were still tight, her breath shallow. Trauma doesn't disappear because a judge signs a piece of paper. Fear doesn't evaporate in a single night. While she picked at her food, I stepped aside to call the lawyer recommended by the hotline. She answered immediately, calm, confident, matter-of-fact. I saw your emergency order come through, she said. I can take your case. I nearly cried with relief. She asked for everything. The video, the texts, photos of Lily's bruises. She told me she'd file for temporary full custody that day. You're doing everything right, she said. Most mothers never get proof. You have video. You have physical evidence. He won't win this. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. But just as I hung up, Lily called out. Mom. Her voice was small. Too small. I rushed back to her and her face was pale. He's here, she whispered. My heart stopped. What? She pointed at the window. I saw his car. I didn't want to believe her. I didn't want to think he'd be reckless enough to circle the motel again after the police had been there the night before. But when I peeked through the blinds, my stomach dropped. He was parked across the street. In plain sight. Watching. How did he even know where to look? I whispered under my breath. Lily tugged on my sleeve. Mom, he's going to take me. No, I said firmly, kneeling in front of her. He is not going to touch you. He is not going to come near you. But we need to go. Now. I grabbed our things. Threw them into the car. Buckled her in with hands shaking so badly I almost missed the latch. I didn't even bother checking if he saw me leave. We drove. Not home. Not the courthouse. Not anywhere predictable. I drove until the motel was far behind us. Until the highway stretched endlessly ahead. Until my breathing matched the rhythm of the tires on the asphalt. Lily watched the rearview mirror every few seconds. Is he following us? She whispered. No, I said even before I checked. We're okay. I didn't know if that was true, but she needed to hear it. After 2 hours on the road, Lily finally fell asleep. Her head against the window, her hands wrapped around her bear. For the first time in days, her face looked peaceful, like she was drifting somewhere safe. I drove to a small, quiet town where no one knew us. Called the legal advocate again. She arranged a safe house, an undisclosed location for domestic violence survivors. That's where we went. A quiet farmhouse with a long gravel road and thick trees shielding it from sight. The woman who ran it, Janice, hugged me the moment I stepped inside. You got her out, she whispered. That's what matters. Lily stayed glued to my side. She wouldn't let go of my hand even when Janice showed us our room. That night I finally slept. Not well. Not deeply. But for the first time in days, I let my eyes rest knowing we were surrounded by locked gates, alarms, motion lights, and women who knew exactly what Daniel was capable of. But safe doesn't mean calm. Because at 3:14 a.m., I woke to my phone vibrating. I shouldn't have turned it on. But I needed to check in with the lawyer, the court, my sister. Someone. The moment it powered up, the screen exploded with notifications. Missed calls. Voicemails. Texts. Dozens of them. I didn't want to play the voicemails. But I did. The first few were calm. Manipulative. Claire, be reasonable. Come home. Let's talk. Don't blow this out of proportion. Then they changed. You're not taking her from me. You're poisoning her against me. You think you can run? You think I won't find you? Then the last voicemail. A low, slow whisper. You will regret this. I blocked his number. Deleted the voicemails. But the sound of his voice stayed with me, rattling around in the quiet corners of my chest. I knew then he wasn't going to stop. Not until someone made him stop. The next morning the lawyer called. The judge granted your motion, she said. You have full temporary custody. He is not allowed to contact you or your daughter in any way. Law enforcement will serve him today. I nearly dropped the phone. Is that enough to keep him away? I asked. It will be, she said. And once he's officially served, anything he does after that becomes a criminal offense. And for a moment, one small fragile moment, I felt relief wash over me. But it didn't last long. At noon the sheriff's department called. Ma'am, the deputy said, we located Daniel Donovan. He resisted service. He became aggressive. We attempted to detain him. He fled. My vision blurred. He fled. I whispered. What do you mean fled? He ran. Got in his vehicle and left the scene. We're issuing a warrant for his arrest, but we don't know where he is. I sank into the nearest chair. Lily looked up at me, worry creeping into her eyes. What happened? I didn't want to tell her. But I had never lied to her, not truly, so I didn't start now. They're looking for him, I said gently. They'll find him. We're safe here. She nodded, but I saw it, the fear burrowing back into her bones. That night Lily woke screaming. A nightmare. The first of many. I held her until her shaking stopped. She fell asleep curled against me, tiny fingers gripping my shirt like if she let go I'd disappear. I didn't sleep at all. The next day, mid-afternoon, the sheriff called again. We found him, the deputy said. He's in custody. He's being charged with domestic battery, violation of a protective order, and resisting arrest. He will not be released today. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Lily was sitting on the bed, hugging her bear, watching my face carefully. Mom, she whispered. What happened? I smiled. Really smiled. For the first time in what felt like forever. They caught him, I said softly. He can't hurt you anymore. She blinked. Once. Twice. Then she rushed into my arms. And this time when she cried, it wasn't fear. It was relief. Pure. Trembling. Relief. We stayed in the safe house for 3 weeks. Long enough for Lily's bruises to fade. Long enough for her to start laughing again. Long enough for her to tell me the rest of her story, slowly, in pieces as she healed. Therapy helped. Time helped. Being believed helped the most. Eventually we moved into a small apartment across town. Just the two of us. No familiar walls. No familiar routines. A fresh start built from ashes. But a start all the same. She sleeps better now. It's better. Smiles more. Draws again. Not everything is fixed. Trauma doesn't vanish. It lingers, fades in and out, whispers in the dark sometimes. But she is healing. And I am learning how to be a mother who listens with her whole body, her whole soul. Daniel stayed in jail while the case moved through court. The evidence was overwhelming. The video. Photographs. Lily's testimony, given through a trained child advocate, not in front of him. He was convicted. Sentenced. Ordered into programs and barred from contacting either of us ever again. He's gone. He will never touch her again. Sometimes late at night Lily asks if he can come back someday. No, I tell her. Not in my lifetime. Not in yours. And I mean it. We survived him. We escaped him. We rebuilt ourselves without him. And now I'm here telling you this, hoping someone out there hears the warning in my voice. If you're a parent and something feels wrong, trust your instinct. If your child flinches, if they change, if they shrink into themselves, listen. If someone in your home demands fear instead of love, leave. You don't need perfect proof. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need permission from anyone to protect your child. Because the truth is simple. Silence protects the abuser. Speaking saves the victim. Thank you for listening to mine.